Hey y'all, today we're going to talk about how Star Trek teaches us that we must not forget to care. It's an essay I wrote in December of 2021, and it was published by Star Trek Quarterly, an online fanzine, and then it was published by Treksphere, another online fanzine. We may think we all live in utopias, but even in utopias, there are still flawed things and flawed people. And where there are flawed people, gossip and bullying are not far behind. It really sucks. Gossip and bullying should not exist. We should all be united in our love and our care for one another, and we should seek to help each other become better, and we should always be building up ourselves. We shouldn't seek to destroy one another. Hey, all you beautiful people, there's so many of you. I cannot call you individually by name, but I appreciate that you're here. So just know that you are appreciated, you are loved, you are cared for. Anyway, why does gossip and bullying exist in a universe that is supposed to be a utopia? In a society where most things seem manageable because of technology and advancements, divergent individuals, whether it be disability or deep thinkers or just diversity itself, diversity still exists and it stands out, and some people are bothered by it. Even now in this modern age, some people still see diversity as a problem. And some people struggle with diversity. And it's so god-awful that, it's not fair that some people hate diversity because diversity is beautiful. God created us all to be different. God created us all to have different talents and abilities. God created us all to find joy in ourselves and each other. And everyone's natural instinct should be to love and help each other be their best selves, because we are all the same and that we are human, with a need for love, with a need for friendship, and a need for a place where we can belong. But the easier instinct within all of us, and we are all guilty of this, we are all guilty of having an instinct to fear what is not easily understood. If we can't easily understand something, we shy away from it, we hide it from our existence. We pretend that we don't know what it is and we run away from it. And that's just plain sad. We even persecute its existence, because if we can't understand it, then why does it have a right to exist at all? And that's quite sad, because I'm sure people would say the same about us. More often than not, unique individuals, even individuals who look the same, but are just a little bit different, are left to struggle alone with very little or no support available to them, because others forget to care about those who are hard to understand or accept. Everyone is divergent in one way or another. That doesn't make them unworthy of love. Everyone is divergent. Everyone is beautiful. Everyone is beautiful because they are divergent. And that's great. But sadly, divergent individuals are feared instead of appreciated for their unique natures and the blessings they can bring to this world. Now I'm gonna get into Star Trek just a little bit. If any of you have seen Star Trek Deep Space Nine, there's a Cardassian there named Elim Garak. Garak was loyal to Cardassia, a place he considered home, even though it was a place where he was seen as not being good enough. He stood out. He was not typical. Do you ever get that way? Where you're loyal to a place, but you stand out and you're not seen as good enough and you're mistreated by those you're loyal to, even though you declare your loyalty from the rooftops and say, hey, I love you, I love this place, I will give my heart to this place and the people in it, but you're looked down on, you're treated like a piece of crap, even though you give your all to make sure the place in which you live is a better place. Do you ever feel that way? That you're looked down upon by the place you love and you're frustrated, but you'll stay loyal to it because you don't know any better. So Garak did that. He was persecuted and mistreated by Cardassia, but he was loyal to it and would not look down upon it. And he got mad at others for looking down upon it because he didn't know any better. He cared very much for Cardassia, even though he was exiled from it, and he wasn't ever truthful about why he was exiled from Cardassia. But he made the most of his exile, just like we all do. And if we don't, we should. We should make the most of our circumstances. We should use our intellect and our skill to survive in difficult circumstances just like he was. Yet, he was considered a divergent individual. He was considered a divergent individual because he didn't fit in with his people. He was considered an exile. And he was considered odd and strange and even a little dangerous because he didn't succeed at what he was expected to succeed at. And he wasn't doing what he was expected to do by those he lived among with. He lived among the people on Deep Space Nine, and they thought him weird, they thought him dangerous, but they thought him mysterious. And yet he was just a simple tailor. His inability to live up to the expectations that people placed upon him, well, that made him stand out. The station's residents were unsure of what to make of him, and he wasn't sure what they expected of him either, but they did strive to coexist with each other peacefully. You know, even if we're labeled as different, even if we stand out, we can still strive to be peaceful about it. We can still strive to coexist with others peacefully. We can still be a peaceful part of society, even if society thinks we're odd. Even if society rejects us. You know, I'm thinking about Jesus. Society thought him odd, and some even thought him dangerous. And some, God forbid, even hated him and weren't afraid to show it, but he still strived to coexist with them peacefully and showed them love. And we shouldn't be afraid to do the same. I mean, the world is very tumultuous right now and probably always has been, but we should strive to be peaceful even in times of great unrest. Anyway, back to Garak. Garak was perfectly aware that the station's residents thought him a spy planted on the station to serve as the eyes for his people, and found comfort in playing the rumors up and thrived in doing so, instead of focusing on how the rumors made him feel. I'm sure he was very sad. He was like, oh, these people think so poorly of me. But you know, I'm just going to find some enjoyment in playing the role instead of focusing on how sad I feel at hearing that these people think poorly of me. He made lemonade out of lemons, in other words, and that's something we should all do when we're faced with persecution. We should make the most of our circumstances by making lemonade out of lemons and finding joy even when there's really none to be found, because there's always joy to be found, even in great tribulation. But Garrick did make a friend, as it's quite possible for all of us to make friends, and that friend was Dr. Julian Bashir, the chief medical officer, like the station's doctor, in other words, for those who don't watch Star Trek. And Julian Bashir was awkward in his own right. He was genetically modified by his parents at a young age because his parents didn't like the fact that he was born with extreme disabilities. And so his parents changed him into what they thought was a satisfactory, worthy to love child. And it made him intellectually perfect, but it left him socially awkward. And that awkwardness followed him to Deep Space Nine, but perhaps that's why Julian and Garrick made the perfect set of friends. They were both awkward. They were both alone in a crowd. And like Garrick, Julian was very well aware of the rumors about himself. He was very well aware that people thought him strange. But he just continued living his life to the best of his ability and making the most of what he had available to him. And he struggled to find acceptance. Like Garrick, Julian's pain was real, and he covered his vulnerability with sheer arrogance and tried to find just anything to grasp to, and he pushed people away and just trying to cover his pain up, but Garrick wasn't fooled by Julian's poor attempt to hide his vulnerability, and hence they found friendship in each other. But what happens, though, when people aren't as lucky as Garrick and Julian? What happens, though, when those who try to find their place continually struggle to? Because, we all have struggles. We're all awkward, and we all try to find our place in the crowd because being alone in the crowd sucks. But we don't give up on ourselves, because giving up on ourselves is terrible. But the journey of trying to find where we fit in is very lonely. Finding a place to belong is often a battle. And it's a battle that people from every walk of life struggle with every single day. How many of us really struggle with that? Just really, please be unafraid to speak up about that. How many of us struggle with finding a place to belong, or even feeling comfortable in our own skin? How many of us struggle to love ourselves? How many of us struggle to say that we're worthy of life? How many of us struggle to feel good about ourselves enough to just get out of bed and embrace joy? I'm sure a lot of us do. We cannot be afraid to embrace joy. We cannot be afraid to live life as though we are worthy of it, because we definitely are. We are worthy of life. But more often than not, people who struggle to find their place in the world often fall prey to negative emotions and find comfort in them. Negative self-talk is a faster killer than anything out there. Any poison, any weapon, any person, any war. Negative self-talk can just cause everything about us to shut down. And we need to stop it. It can hurt us faster than anyone or anything else ever could. It will destroy us. It will take us to nothing. It will destroy us. And even though we think darkness, the darkness that negative emotions provide, even though we think that's comfortable, we don't have the right grasp on it. Comfort is growth, and growth is meant to be uncomfortable. So we need to face what is uncomfortable. We need to face our negative emotions and go through them and face them and really own that we have them. We need to take ownership of them and go through them in order to grow from them. We shouldn't take comfort in our suffering and sorrows. Yet we do it because we feel we are alone. We feel as if nobody cares, and so we retreat to our cold little corner of the universe and suffer silently. How many of us just often feel like nobody cares about us, and we suffer silently just because we feel like nobody cares, nobody wants to listen to us? Like, honestly, how many of us truly feel like nobody cares? How many of us feel like nobody cares, that we are just on our own in this world? How many of us? Because, I mean, so many people look through a lens of ignorance and they think, oh, you know, people are fine. We don't need to worry about anybody but ourselves. But, you know, there's so many people out there who would benefit if we just took the time to care about others besides ourselves. Like, how many people suffer just because we don't look outside ourselves? Let's just think about that for a minute. Lots of people suffer because we forget to care. And so we're left feeling alone. We're left feeling forgotten. And so we retreat into ourselves. We retreat into silence. We retreat into ourselves and we don't reach out. We just think nobody cares about us, so why should we? Nobody cares about who we are, what we're doing. So we retreat silently. And we feel as if nothing's ever going to get better. But we should not let fear overrule our faith in ourselves and our ability to grow or ask for help in growing. We should not be afraid of reaching out to others for help when experience is forced upon us or our own darknesses threaten our peaceful selves. It doesn't really help that indifference and marginalization run rampant through the world like never-ending pandemics, because they really do. Indifference, hate for that which is different, anger towards they who are different, the killing, the imprisonment, the isolation, the ignorance of people who are different to the point where they lose their lives and are depleted of every resource they need to be able to live good, productive lives. They destroy. If anybody has questions, please ask in the chat. Like, I care. As a person with a disability, I care about helping make the world a better place. Not just for me, but for people like me and other people who are in marginalized groups. Because everybody is in at least one marginalized group. Nobody is completely normal. Everybody has an experience. And those who have experiences, I mean, it is really hard to go through something traumatic. And as someone who has gone through many traumatic things, I've survived abuse by someone who is no longer dead, or I've survived abuse by someone who is no longer alive. They died in 2014. But the effects are still with me, but I'm getting help. And those who lose their loved ones, that is not an easy thing. Whatever relationship you may have had with the loved one that you've lost, just know that you don't have to lose yourself in your grief. You don't have to lose yourself in your sorrow. You don't have to lose yourself in the cold intensity that grief is. You should not be afraid of reaching out to others for help. There are all sorts of mental health helps out there, because grief is not an emotion that one can resolve on their own. They need to talk over it with somebody. And technology, as crazy as it is, as much craziness as it can bring to the world nowadays, it can also bring a lot more people together, and it has made counseling so much more available than it used to be. So if you are struggling with heavy emotions from loss, if you are struggling with heavy emotions from abuse, you can get some help. And we shouldn't respond to cries for help with apathy or deep hate. We should do what we can to be there for others when they need comfort and overlook quirks or differences that make it difficult for people to ask for help, because everybody may need help at one point or another in their lives, as might we. And we would expect help when we ask for it. So we should not be afraid to give it when we are asked, as long as it doesn't put us in harm's way. We should not forget others, lest they find it too easy to forget us. Dr. Julian Bashir's words come to mind, and he is a doctor from Deep Space Nine. And he was very wise. These words are words we should think about when we think about how we all have personal battles to fight and need to help one another succeed in enduring them. Causing people to suffer because you hate them is terrible. But causing people to suffer because you have forgotten how to care, that's really hard to understand. We cannot and should not be afraid to teach people to remember how to care. We cannot and should not be teach people that we are all people who endure personal battles. We cannot and should not be afraid to understand that we all have personal battles to fight, and we need to help one another to succeed in enduring them. Truly, we must not forget to care, even though it may be hard for us to care. I mean, it might be hard for us to care because life wears everybody down. It truly wears everybody down. But we're human. We have limited capacities. But one thing we do not limit is love. We're not limited in our ability to love. We're not limited in our ability to receive love. So we should do it. You know, one thing that Garrick, Julian, and I actually have in common is that we're quirky. I, like them, I talk too much. I ask too many questions about everything because I'm very curious about the world. I find fascination with things that others might not. I bore others to tears with random spouts of information. I get passionate about the strangest of things. And I'm always on here about everything, talking about everything, teaching and sharing my heart and experiences in hopes that they would teach others new and exciting goodnesses. And I hope that they would truly help people, because I believe in helping people. I believe in benefiting them for good. I believe in just really benefiting people for good and helping them find joy in themselves, because life is very short. Life is so very short. And we cannot and should not be afraid to find joy in who we are and whose we are. Anyway, my kindness is often misinterpreted, and it's demonized, and I'm dehumanized for being kind. But I work to persevere even when others tell me I should give it up. I cannot be afraid to keep going even when I'm told I'm hated. Because what good can I do? I can do a lot of good even if I'm hated. Because I would prefer to be hated than allow people to be forgotten because my message didn't get out there. Causing people to suffer because my message didn't get out there, because I didn't allow people to know that they were loved. That would be an injustice to me. That would be a tragedy to me. I truly require a lot of patience, more often than not. But I work to persevere. I work to persevere at doing good in this world. When others tell me I should just give in to the low expectations that others have of me and sit in my cold little corner of the world and do nothing, I prefer to let others see me give love to the world. I prefer to let others have joy in the joy that I have to give. Life is so very short, and I cannot and should not be afraid to show how life fascinates me and also show how my experiences can be of help to those in the world who are struggling, because I struggle every day and I've struggled in the past. I may struggle in the future, probably, but I can still show that it is possible to find joy in the struggle and to learn from the struggle and to really make the most of struggle and learn lessons. You know, I often feel like I'm on an island, constantly trying to build bridges of understanding between me and others, and these are bridges. I count these as bridges. And I put in a lot of work doing it. A lot of people don't respond to my attempts. A lot of people think I'm weird for trying. But I'm weird. Okay, that's great. That's so great. That's so great. Because of my struggles, many have seen me as a lost cause and treated me like I'm a lost cause. I'm often alone and ignored or just outright persecuted. But that has actually created a positive effect in my life. That has actually caused me to treat others with dignity, respect, and love, because I believe in giving that, even if I'm not given it. And, you know, Julian Bashir had this captain named Captain Benjamin Sisko. And I truly praise Captain Sisko for being the kind of captain who didn't let Julian's divergency or his quirks affect the high opinion he had of him as a person or as a Starfleet officer. Captain Sisko loved and cared for Julian just like he cared for all the rest of his crew. Everyone was worthy of love in Captain Sisko's eyes. Even Garrick, even though Garrick was not Starfleet, he still was seen as valuable and worthy of love. When Garrick offered his talents to help Starfleet in the war against the Dominion, which was a very intense point of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Captain Sisko ignored the opinions of others and gave Garrick the chance to prove himself. A choice he didn't regret making. But you know, Julian eventually endured a trial. He was exposed as someone who had been genetically engineered by parents who couldn't love him as he was. He was exposed, and it would have been so easy for Sisko to let him go. But Sisko stood by him. Is it easy for us to stand by people who we think are hard to understand and sometimes hard to love? Yes. In some cases, yes, because loving should be unconditional. And sometimes it is harder to stand by people that are difficult to understand because they don't want our love sometimes, but we shouldn't give up on them. Because we would want people to stand by us. We would want people to care about us. We would want people to see us as worthy of preservation and protection. So, as we expect, so we must give. We are people to be loved and not problems to be solved. But more often than not, We see ourselves as far from decent individuals just because others see us that same way, and we nitpick at ourselves more than we should. And sometimes we struggle to be strong enough to love ourselves as we really are. We don't see as clearly as we should, but we eventually gain the eyes that we need to see ourselves with beauty and respect and genuine compassion. I spent and I still spend much time in emotionally dark places because I accepted that my existence as a person with a disability was more of a burden than a blessing to those around me and to the world. Thankfully, things are a lot better now. But I am still mindful of those harder days simply so that I never return to those dark times. We should always remember the darker times of our lives so that we don't return to them. History matters. History matters a lot. We need to be mindful of it. Like, I am simply a person who struggles to live with things beyond their control. Do you think I chose this? I didn't. But I have to live with it. I am a person with hopes and dreams and fears and rights. I continually work very hard at learning to stand on my own 2 feet because it's my right to do so. People with disabilities have rights. I've got ADHD and nonverbal learning disorder and endometriosis, and I'm constantly learning how to grow and learning how to better advocate for myself to people and advocate for myself in situations. And I share that I am a person with disabilities in hopes that it might foster understanding and empathy, and also give me opportunity to show the world what I can do, be, and become. I also share about how eager I am to belong, but not everyone believes that someone like me deserves to belong, and I often blame myself for that when I shouldn't. How others see me is not my responsibility. My responsibility is to thrive, just as I am. Like, I strive for spaces. I strive for space. Space where I can feel safe and feel free to be authentic. But the world is changing. The world is definitely changing. And there are moments where I wonder if any safe space is out there, if any space is ever going to be safe for people like me. But Rome wasn't built in a day. Every bit of work I do has to have meaning. And I have to keep believing that spaces will become safer. I have to not regret investing patience and love into myself and in my efforts. Even though there are those out there who will believe, probably forever, that people like me don't have a right to safe space, I have to believe that I do. I may stand alone in my efforts to believe that caring for people in general, especially people who are not typical, well, it's something we should do. I continually seek acceptance for people like me and people who stand out, knowing that it might not produce results right away or for a long while, but I still do it. I'm a marginalized person who is very often forgotten about, purposely shunned, or even outright mocked because it is easier for most to do that than to go outside their comfort zones and care. I personally want to be loved as I am, but it is just too hard for many to actually do it. I continually seek acceptance and belonging, but I don't often find it because people often find it hard to care about what they can't easily understand. Hence, I am a social exile who often stands alone. When I get that title, when I'm looking at that title of social exile, I struggle with knowing how to cope because being socially exiled is basically being thrown away like garbage. It's not very nice to be treated like garbage, is it? And being left out in the cold and left to rot alone and just forgotten about, seen as not valuable. It's basically being seen as unworthy of being kept and loved and unworthy of thriving as a treasure. But, nobody is garbage. They just have to find the right space. They have to find the people that will see them as treasures. And, it's okay. If some throw you away, some others will find you and love you as you are. We still need to appreciate ourselves as we are. We should not try to be who we are not. We should focus on finding joy in who we are and be our authentic selves. And if we fail, okay, we fail. We learn that space or that group of people isn't for us, and we can have a little break and retreat into ourselves and regroup, but we do not give up. We do not give up on trying to claim space in the world and claim community for ourselves. We can get up again and try again and be better as long as we don't forget to care about ourselves. As long as we keep acknowledging that we exist and that we have a right to exist, others will remember us too. And we cannot and should not be afraid to truly find joy in who we are. Life is so very short. We cannot forget to care. We matter, as I've said. Remember, the worth of souls is great in the sight of God, and you are not alone. We all have a right to space on this earth. And if we are having trouble finding our community, perhaps we are looking in the wrong places. We deserve our space. We have a right to space. We are of infinite worth, and we are not alone. We belong. I love you all and encourage you to love yourselves too. Bye.